Yeah.
That's right. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, and you asked about what else I would have to say in terms
Please.
of marriage, and I have I have a bunch I could say about
Yeah.
marriage. But one of the things that I think is critical is learning how to apologize to each other and how to forgive each other. And I think that can be discovered when you're dating, whether or not the two of you can do that and where you're at in your life. Um, you know, some of us aren't modeled how to apologize. It's just, and our culture doesn't help. If you say, hey, my bad, that's your apology. Or if
Yeah.
you say, yeah, regrets, or even if you say, yeah, sorry about that, there's no, it's not a thorough apology. And what Steve and I implemented and what I recommended to all of my children to begin doing with each other, and then to take that into other relationships, is to have three different parts to your apology. And one is to say, I am so sorry I was wrong. So you're taking ownership by saying that you were wrong and you were wrong. And the second thing is to name what you did. I'm so sorry I was wrong when I said to you this, or when I interrupted you, or when I lost my temper and just screamed. I was wrong. And then finally to say, would you please forgive me?
Hmm.
And then to stop and let the other person sit with the fact that you've recognized that you were wrong. You've identified what it is that you did. So there's no question, because a lot of times we can think, well, he doesn't even know what he did. And it's like, I'm sorry if I hurt you. Well, do you know why you hurt me? There's a lot of stuff that we still want to argue about when an apology isn't done thoroughly. And with those three things, then the spouse or the boyfriend or girlfriend can say, yes, I forgive you. And I think it's important to actually say those words.
Hmm.
I have recommend some people have a lot of trouble with forgiveness, especially in thinking of my audience. My audience isn't strictly Christians. And so I think, well, if you come from another faith or if you aren't a believer, I still think it's important to resolve conflict in that way. And another thing you can say is, I'm so sorry I did this. I was wrong. Could we please put this behind us? Implies a forgiveness. And that might be a place to start for people that aren't comfortable with saying, I forgive you. But I think that knowing how to do that is
Hmm.
probably the second most important thing besides marrying someone who shares your faith.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's where the
I would,
baggage begins, right? That's where the
It,
baggage begins.
I
and
kind of have
that's
a
how you're going
question.
to be restored.
Yeah.
I kind of have a
Yeah.
It's
question
great.
off of that one. How about approaching your spouse on them wronging you? Um, like I know one, like a lot. I think a lot of times men don't say what's bothering them because it ends up flipping right back on them. Like if you bring
Mm-hmm.
something up to your girlfriend or your wife, it ends up somehow you're the bad person in the end. And so I would just, yeah, if you have any advice on how to bring up something that they wronged you on.
Yeah, I would approach it with believing the best about them. I don't know if that's a phrase you guys use, but we use that with our kids. And the idea is, I'm going to choose to believe the best about you.
Oh man.
And so,
Yeah.
if that
That's
happens,
great. Yeah. I just want to underline that we have that same thing in our family. It's
oh,
like you
great.
always believe in the best version of them. And so when they're acting
Yes.
underneath it, you got your eye on that, and so it gives you more pathos because they're not acting themselves. It's a good
Yes.
thing, and we totally agree with you. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And I would use that in this situation and say, I bet you're not aware that this is going on, or that you made me feel this way. Or I just, because I care about you, I want you to know that that landed in a hurtful place with me. And I don't think you meant it, but I really would like to talk about it because I did feel hurt. Um, just couching it in those soft, cushy verbiage, that sounds like you're overthinking it, I think is just going to be it's gonna put the other person at ease and be able to listen because you are coming to them believing the best about them and then appealing to them, basically saying, I want to restore this. And you probably don't know. Or maybe, maybe you do know. Is something going on that's making you particularly moody or cranky or upset or irritable? And asking them for that window into their world because it could be that too. It could be that they're hurting and out of that hurt they're responding, but appealing to them, their best self, I think is the way to do it.
Yeah, you kind of establish what a good faith conversation feels like, you know?
Yes.
I would say also in my experience being a man is something I've had to confront is that to Mike's point, you think you'll get run over or you're going to get this negative feedback because most of the neurotic tendencies in the relationship are brought on by the woman expressing whatever's going on in her life. And I think we sometimes misunderstand that when we bring it up, if we were to bring it up in good faith, the way you described it, you'd be surprised the woman actually wants to hear it because she does go through probably a lot more things just by nature of her biology than you do. So if you're
Mhm.
going through something, she's going to instinctually, hopefully, have that. And I experienced that with my wife. That was honestly mind blowing when I was like, you know what, I have something going on. And this is probably year or 2.5. And I was like, this is bothering me. And I know it's coming up in our relationship, sort of a irritated mood, and I didn't want her to think it was coming from her, as a work related thing. And I brought it up and she wanted to hear about it, and I was kind of
Mm.
surprised at that because that was not, it was me bringing it up. So I had to try it out,
What if
so
she was the cause of it though?
if she was the cause of it, that would be something like, I think what she says is so good because I think built into, when you broach subjects like that is you want the person to take responsibility, but you have to first, if you have a built-in accusation to bringing it up, it's going to immediately be defensive. But if
Yeah.
it's a good faith beginning, like you may not know about this, you may not be malevolently trying to drive me nuts right now. I married you because I think you're a good person, basically. Um, I think that's going to have a better outcome, So, but I do think that when men are at that point, and this is something to understand, is we get to that pressure cooker point. It takes us a longer time to get there, but when we're there, we're usually pretty pissed, because it's
Mhm.
taken that much time to get there, So I think that's something to consider too.
Well, and in that moment, going back to the whole idea of the love and the respect, that's the point where a lot of men shut down because they are so upset. They need to regroup or they're going to do something they regret. And I think it's in that moment, it's helpful to even say, it's super sobering though, if you were to say, honey, I'm so upset right now. I can't talk about this anymore. And I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. You're just going to have to give me time. It's going to be okay, but I need time. And so I'll let you know when I've cooled off. That would be really helpful to hear as a woman because it helps us to understand you and it also helps us to really respect the way you're handling your emotions. Um, most of us don't do that naturally. I'm trying to be better at that, to
Yeah,
be more like
that's a
men in
great
that
point.
regard. I love
I
it.
think a lot of people are afraid to, and it's part of being mature in your characters, be like, I have to handle myself right now.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm emotional right now and this is not what's going on. But there are also those times to where just saying that like you did, just like I'm in this state, kind of acknowledging it verbally in front of your partner and taking accountability for that gives them like this pathos for you almost immediately. They're like, oh well, like you all, it puts them off of the defense, because they see you
Yes.
in your struggle, and you're opening that door to them to kind of be like, it's not you, it's me, it's this right now, instead of trying to point the blame meter to someone, or trying to, and that I think, because it's not always black and white, is it, in a marriage?
Right.
It's not always white and black and right or wrong, so often it's like, and that's what communication is, like you've said so many times. It's like being able to get through those moments. And your tips are they seem like simple, but they're so thoughtful at the same time, because you actually love this person. You also like paying attention to your own self and your growth with this person. And it's just really cool, like the way you bring in the humor with each other, and the spice of the sexuality, and doing these things, and kind of acknowledging these really hard things to do, or more or less easy things to not pay attention to, and kind of let slowly drown away, into the abyss, and to keep the relationship beautiful and thriving.
It's vital. It's
Yes.
great